Hello and welcome to this edition of The Guys, your place for fantasy football analysis and expertise. I'm your host, the Fantasy Doctor. With me as always, The Guys. To my right, fantasy's favorite ginger, Big Red, Mr. Mark Down.
How we doing?
To his right, the smartest man on the panel, the professor, Mr. Ryan Nault.
Hello, welcome back.
To my left, a man who paints in fantasy anger, the artiste, Mr. Jay Greenwald.
Hello all, hopefully we can help you this week a little bit.
And to his left, a man who watches the NFL in ice skates, Canadian bacon, Mr. Kyle Marchand.
Welcome back to the Great White North, guys. Home of the Edmonton Eskimos. 10 bits again.
Edmonton Eskimos. That's a rare and special reference there. And joining us, as usual, Miss Holly, our beverage connoisseur. Holly, get us started. What's first?
Studs of the week.
Studs of the week. Holly's favorite. That's Holly's favorite segment. Studs of the week.
Good. I said it wrong. Studs of the week.
There's some husk there. Some husk. That's what we want. Canadian bacon, get us started. Studs of last week.
You know, we've been talking about this guy not cleaning up garbage time. And Blake Bortles this week, you could call him the $12,000 man with Canadian currency exchange, probably like a $16,000 guy. But 50-plus passes, 3 TDs, all in garbage time like we wanted out of him. Finally had a good week fantasy-wise. I'm hoping Jacksonville continues to be terrible and he keeps putting up big numbers in the fourth quarter.
That's interesting. We just got a currency exchange reference out of Canadian bacon. Bortles, right reads, bad accuracy. I don't know if you guys saw this week. He flew in his own special mechanics coach, Dido, to work on his mechanics. The guy's been bad this year. Good reads, bad accuracy. That's something I don't know that is fixable. We'll see. He's got a new guy coming in. Kick it to you, artiste.
Well, first of all, I'd like to point out that I think that Jacksonville will continue to be terrible, just for the record. That will not surprise me, so I think you're okay there. Beyond that, I'm going to say Derek Carr, I'm sorry. That's his brother, actually, David, I believe. But anyway, Derek Carr, it's a pretty obvious one, but he had just a monster week. Somewhat porous Tampa defense, but 500-plus yards, 4 touchdowns. The guy went off. He's been good this year, but that's a little bit over the top right there. But he had a monster week, and this week could be a different story, but we'll get back to that later.
Yeah, Carr, 6th among QBs in fantasy points this year. Really been a surprise, I think, for everyone. Came a long way. But I would like to point this out. Carr has only had 1 or 2 passing TDs in 5 of his 8 games, and under 250 yards in 4 of 8. He seems like a boom or bust to me. Mm-hmm. Obviously a boom last week. Mm-hmm. Faces Denver this week. We'll get into it. Much different beast than what he's faced prior to this week. Let's kick it to you, Big Red.
Yeah, my boom this week is Jordan Howard. 200 yards and a touchdown against the Vikings defense. The Vikings defense, they're hard. The only thing really harder than that is
Doc Nipples?
Doc Nipples. Strangely enough.
I knew that was coming. I know.
Everybody else is looking at him. Why not you? But I just think that the Bears seem to be back. Cutler's coming back. This seems like a team that's on the roll. Cutler's absolutely dogfighting for a job and probably a career. And if you're going to put up those numbers against the Vikings, you're going to get a good chance to put them up against every other team in that division. So let's see how it turns out.
Yeah, Vikings, no joke on defense for sure. Very impressive outing. Jordan Howard, we had written him off the prior 2 games. I think the panel was really down on Jordan Howard. Some of us were saying, I think I was included, maybe it was time to trade Jordan Howard. But after last week, we're gonzo again. That's the way fantasy rolls. Let's kick it to you, Professor. Boom of the week.
I'm going to stick with some Carolina Panthers. Obviously, the defense played very, very well. But Jonathan Stewart, coming off a bye, they had 1 win on the season. They needed to win the game. He came in, rushed the ball 25 times, kept Arizona off the field, scored a couple touchdowns. He did fumble the ball late, but the game was already out of touch then. But he looked good, got him the win, and I think it's going to be good moving forward. Try to protect Cam Newton a little bit.
Good. I'm going to do a quick hitter before we move on. I'm going to go right back to you, Professor. We'll start with you. Let's get it out there. Quick hitter, guys. They're talking about Tom Brady being the MVP this year. I've heard it on all the talk, ESPN, NFL radio, on Sirius. Lots of talk. The guy's missed 4 games. Ezekiel Elliott having a blow-up year. Some other guys really impressing. So I want to go down the panel really quickly. Is Tom Brady in the MVP conversation? And I'll go to you, Professor.
Yeah, the stats don't lie. Right now, yeah, he's in the conversation for sure.
Big Red.
He is, but he shouldn't be. The team comes in, they're 3-1 the time he missed. That team didn't need him. He's just that much better with him.
That's an interesting take. His numbers have been astronomical since he came back. They were winning without him, though. Not to the degree they're winning now, but they were winning without him. Let's kick it to you, Ortiz. Tom Brady, MVP.
I think he has to be in the conversation. Obviously, a lot's going to depend on the second half of the season, but right now, he's been so good that if he continues this, I think he has to be in the conversation. In fact, I think if he continues to play like he's playing, I think he's the guy. I think he is the MVP.
He really makes it look easy.
He does, which is amazing because this is the NFL and it's not that easy. I understand Red's point totally, and so we'll see what happens as things move on. But obviously he missed the first quarter of the season or so. But if he continues to do what he's doing, I don't know how you can deny.
I didn't think this side of the table agree with that side of the table. There seems to be a lot of love for Big Red. Kick it down to you, Canadian Bacon.
We can continue to make fun of my man love for Tom Brady. The answer is yes, he should be. I don't care what anybody else is saying. Tom Brady's numbers are stupid good right now. The only way, and I'll continue to say it, is if Roger Goodell lobbies against him.
I got to tell you, if Tom Brady was from Canada, I think you'd be ready to have his love child. Canadian Bacon, Tom Brady love child. Be interesting. Holly, you're up. What's next?
That'd be quite a CFL baby right there.
We're always waiting on Holly. I don't know. It's
Toilet bowl.
toilet bowl. And, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Toilet bowl is next. Holly, I think Holly was outside. I don't know where she was. Restroom. Hopefully she turned off her mic and you guys weren't privy to that. Privy. Canadian Bacon, start us out.
Well, I think the other end of the table needs a Timbit. Because the last couple weeks they were talking about a guy named Matt Stafford, and he was god awful. Just god awful last week. Just terrible. So I'm going to give those guys a donut. Hope they feel better about themselves. Try to find a little bit better choices moving forward. Word to the wise: never count on the Detroit Lions to do anything worthwhile.
And we
They're
have
like
called,
Cleveland.
We have called, and these guys appreciate, I'm sure, the nutrition. We have talked many times about Matt Stafford being Forrest Gump. You never know what you're going to get. He is the box of chocolates, the proverbial box of chocolates. However, who is his offensive coordinator?
Jim Bob Cooter?
It never gets. It might get old to you guys. It never gets old to us.
We enjoy it.
Hopefully you do. But if you don't, we're going to keep doing it anyway.
Well, are we going to do another Matt Stafford MVP discussion at some point?
Well, we'll see. Last week we were talking about. You know what? If the guy goes off for 400 yards and 3 TDs in the next 3 weeks, we're going to be talking about him. And with that guy, anything's possible. Artiste, toilet bowl. Who are you flushing this week?
It's got to be Mark Ingram. He has been a big disappointment, I would say, to pretty much anybody this year. I was never really high on him from the get-go, but I know he was projected pretty high. So last week, he fumbles the damn ball. I believe it was the first possession. And Seattle takes it back for a touchdown. And he barely gets back in the game, and now Hightower gets all the carries. Listen, he's a huge disappointment. He's been a huge disappointment to me since he's been drafted. I don't think the guy's that great, and you got to hold on to the football, or this is gonna happen every week.
Yeah, in the NFL, not for long when you fumble. It definitely stands for not for long. We have been big fans of Ingram just because he's a local kid. He comes from Michigan. Actually comes from Flint, where a lot of us grew up. But Tim Hightower last week in relief, 26 carries, 102 yards after the Ingram fumble. I think they use Hightower going forward. Ingram hasn't impressed prior to the fumbles. I think his time in New Orleans, certainly running back by committee going forward, and maybe Ingram sits for a while or the rest of the year. Not good for Ingram in New Orleans. Let's kick it to you, Big Red.
Yeah, my bust of Week 8 has got to be Mike Evans. I mean, he's up against Oakland, who's been playing terrible defense. He had 11 targets, 4 catches for 50 yards. I do expect a big bounce back this week. So that's obviously a positive. I think your window to buy Mike Evans is this week. If you missed him, because he does play on Thursday, you're probably not going to get a chance to buy him. But honestly, fantastic matchup against a terrible defense. Went into overtime, as we talked about. Derek Carr's throwing 500 yards. They were putting up monster points, and Evans decided apparently to take the week off. So if you can buy him, absolutely get him, because I think he's going to have a big Thursday night.
Yeah, I like him for 2 scores on Thursday, actually. I'm going to kick it down to you. We're laughing because we shoot on Thursday. We have seen a little bit of the game. Big Red's notes, though, were prior to the game, and he absolutely is right. He was high. We compared notes before. He was high in Evans going into this game. I think he has 2 scores tonight. We'll see what he does the rest of the way. I do like my Nostradamus hat. 2 scores at least.
I can vouch for it, though. He was high.
Probably in the first half.
Started.
Probably in the first half.
Yeah,
I think so.
You can listen to Doc every week.
That part he didn't say.
If we can go back in time. No, Big Red's notes were before, and great call already. Professor,
I'm
who you flushing?
I'm taking the obvious one. Russell Wilson. Again, 250 yards passing, no touchdowns, an interception against the New Orleans defense where he should have flourished. Drafted top 5 quarterback. He's playing like a bottom 5 quarterback. Bench him until further notice, which is probably going to be next year.
Yeah, if you can't get it done against the New Orleans Saints, you're done. I mean, they've given up more points to wide receivers than anybody else in the league. The only one giving up more touchdowns is the Detroit Lions. The team giving up the most points, the most fantasy points by far, the New Orleans Saints. He doesn't get it done last week. He's not going to get it done going forward. Terrible season by Russell Wilson. If you drafted him, I apologize, but I got to tell you, if you watched our show, every one of us was down on Russell Wilson. Holly, what's next?
I'm ready this time. Starts and sits.
Starts and sits. I'm going to kick it to you, CB. Who are you starting this week?
I'm going to start Phillip Rivers against Tennessee. Guy's been a top 5, top 6 quarterback all season. Tennessee doesn't look great. That offense in San Diego seems to, for whatever reason, each week put up numbers. They don't have a lot of flashy guys. They don't have, we've discussed, they don't have Woodhead. They don't have Keenan Allen. Phillip Rivers seems to be the only thing that they have, and him and Gordon, for whatever reason, really work together. They've got a little bit of run, a little bit of pass, and he's putting up big numbers.
Kick it to you, Artiste.
I'm going to have to go with Kyle Rudolph. He's going up against the Detroit defense that, as usual, as we talked about a few weeks ago, they're the last in the league giving up points against fantasy tight ends. I might have mentioned Zach Ertz a few weeks ago, and he might have kind of failed me.
I was going to ask, do you need a Timbit for those 8 touchdowns?
I thought I might have said 9.
You might have. There was a lot of touchdowns missed.
I never touched Kyle's balls. But
The Timbit seemed to heal everything. Artiste, finish up.
Well, anyway,
Kyle Rudolph.
I think, I'm never going to recommend a tight end again after this week if Kyle Rudolph doesn't go off. But, it is Detroit. They're at home. They're gonna try to look to him in the red zone. He should have a monster week. So should Zach Ertz, but we'll see.
Kyle Rudolph, 10th most fantasy points for tight ends this year. The Lions, the league worst against tight ends, 0.34 fantasy points per opportunity, guys. The Lions turn every tight end into a star. I agree. I think Kyle Rudolph has a big game this week. And this was interesting to me. Only 2 tight ends have had 4 more targets all season. Dennis Pitta is the other one who has yet to find the end zone. So Kyle Rudolph, if he's going to have a game, as we've said many times, this is the week he should look like a star like every other tight end has against Detroit. Big Red.
Yeah, to me this week is Dak Prescott week. Kind of a crazy trade. New England trading arguably their stud linebacker to Cleveland. I think Cleveland steps up and tries to sell out to stop Zeke, which means with Dez coming back, Terrence Williams, another guy I think you should definitely find a way and find in your lineup. I think Dak probably goes off for 275, 2 or 3 scores. I think this is a game where Cleveland decides to try to make them one-dimensional, and I think Dak Prescott says sink or swim. You're either taking Tony Romo's job this week, or you're probably going to find your way to the bench. If you don't get it done against Cleveland, you're in trouble.
Easiest thing we've ever said in fantasy. If you can't get it done against Cleveland or like a tight end against Detroit, you're not going to get it done. Kick it to you, Professor.
Well, with a lot of teams on bye this week, I like Ryan Tannehill. He's facing a Jets defense who's given up the most passing yards per game of any defense. Revis Island it's closed for renovations. I think we all can definitely talk about that. But they got a good run defense. So I think Tannehill's going to get the opportunities. They're coming off a bye. They got a chance to go to 500, 4-4. Patriots are going to run away with the division, but they got a chance to maybe get into that wild card race. And I think they're going to throw the ball to do that. And I think Tannehill could be a good start.
Yeah, the Jets allowing the most passing yards, but fourth fewest against the run. I know one of you guys are going to get into the J-Train, Jay Ajayi, but I think the J-Train struggles this week. I think it is a good week to start Tannehill. You mentioned Darrelle Revis. Revis now 70% of attempts against Revis is being completed wide receivers. He is no longer a threat, not only in real life, in real NFL, but he's no longer a threat to your fantasy receivers. Don't worry about Darrelle Revis. I know in years past we were worried when you had a matchup against Revis, maybe you sit the guy. That's no longer true. His stats are awful. I don't know what's happened there, but Revis no longer scary in any capacity. Guys, I want to do a quick hitter. I'm going to start with UCB. The question is, Dallas's turnaround. Last year they struggled. This year they're not. Biggest contribution to that turnaround, Dak Prescott or Ezekiel Elliott?
Ooh. I'll say Dak's plus the schedule. Weighted schedule in the NFL is huge, and Dak's getting to play against some mediocre teams as a rookie QB, I think, is the difference.
CB should be a politician. That wasn't the question. See the way he pivoted? It's like Hillary and Trump pivot. That was a pivot.
It was.
I'll take one, but I'll take the schedule. That wasn't in the question. So, Ortiz, I'm going to kick it to you. We're going to keep it between these two, and you can't say the schedule of the coach, Jerry Jones, or whatever.
Well, CB, you ignorant slut, for one thing.
I'm just going to sit and have a Timbit.
I'm going to say Zeke. I mean, the guy is he's a stud. He's a gladiator. He's a horse. He's a machine. He's all of those. I think he's all of those things. No, but seriously, I would say Zeke. I don't know. It's hard to say what would have happened if Tony Romo would have stayed healthy. But, I mean, Zeke's been a beast and or a stud or anyway. I'm going to say Zeke. We're
not sure what sites on the internet Jay's been watching to come up with gladiator and horse and stud, but we're going to leave it to the viewer to figure that out. I do like the fact, too, that CB just did it, the Timbit, for the first time to soothe his own nerves as opposed to giving them out. Right. And he feels better. Do you feel better, CB?
I feel much better.
The Timbits cure all. Yeah. Big Red, kick it to you.
Well, I just think it's about time that we ask all our viewers, we're going to need subscribers because we really need to get Jay the real channel. This watching the blurry stuff is just cannot continue. He's not able to determine if he's a gladiator, if he's riding a horse, what's going on. So please, for all of us, hit that little subscribe button. We appreciate it. But I think, honestly, it's got to be Dak Prescott. Last year, we've talked about it even in our preseason shows. That offensive line has made even Darren McFadden look like a stud, who apparently cannot hold on to his phone, shatters his elbow before his screen, and now has not played it down this entire year. So it's got to be Dak Prescott.
Professor, your thoughts?
Unfortunately, I have to agree. I guess fortunately, unfortunately. Yeah, I think it's Dak Prescott. I mean, your whole offense, it starts with the quarterback. You know, he's got to make good decisions, doing hot routes and, changing plays at the line. He's got to control the football, not throw interceptions. I think it lays on the quarterback.
And Dak's been really amazing for a rookie. I mean, when we look at, like, for the Rams, for example, still not willing to put Jared Goff in there. They threw Dak Prescott basically to the Wolves, and the guy's really blown up. I think Dak Prescott is more impressive for the Dallas turnaround as well. I agree with you guys, more than Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think Zeke does what he's doing without a competent quarterback there stretching the field. Dak's doing that. Really impressive for a rookie. I'd like to see Goff guys, by the way. Keenum's been just the nightmare for them. I can't believe they're still playing him. Maybe we see Goff going in the next couple weeks. Guys, we're going to go to the sits of the week. Professor, I'm going right back to you. Your sit of the week.
Allen Robinson. He hasn't scored a touchdown in the last month. Now he has to go into Arrowhead. And Arrowhead, I don't care what anybody says, it's a hard place to play. It's got a mystique about it. I don't know what it is, but it's really tough to play there. And it looks like he's going to be facing off against Marcus Peters. If you haven't heard about him, you will. 19 NFL games, 12 interceptions. He's probably going to be on Allen Robinson. He's getting shut down. And again, I don't trust Blake Bortles.
Number 3 corner rated, by the way, and that's the thing as we look at matchups. Wide receivers are only good as who they're going against. Doesn't matter how many targets they get. It matters what corner's on them. And when you're facing the number 3 corner rated by PFF and several other sites, going to be rough sledding for him. Big Red.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Blake Bortles. Again, he's going into Kansas City, which isn't even in Kansas, which is strange enough to begin with. And when it really comes down to is you have the number 1 receiver on most teams that you've drafted. He's made him look like an absolute fool. Blake Bortles, for some reason, just is not getting it done. I think this is the week you sit him. I think he's a buy low target. Hopefully he starts to figure it out. But if he doesn't get it done this week, the schedule doesn't get any easier. So it's probably time to sit him and let him go.
And this is time, guys, to look forward to schedules. Look at the matchups going forward. That's the thing to evaluate, both on trades and the guys that you want to hold on to. A lot of less sophisticated players won't be looking at their schedule going forward. Big Red makes a great point, and we're all going to be looking out for you guys. Schedules going forward are huge, especially if you've got a good record at this point. Start to pad your teams with guys that are going to look good forward versus guys that you have right now that have produced up to this point but have really tough sledding going forward. Artiste, sit of the week.
I'm going to go with Edgy.
The J Train.
You know what? I can't say his name, so I'm going to skip. I'm not going to go with him. It's running back for the Dolphins, but I can't say his name.
But Mark did the woo woo because we were going to do J Train.
Son of a bitch.
It's all right. It's all right. Go with your guy. Go with your guy.
Oh, no? Okay. All right. Messed that up, too. All right. My bad. So I'm going to move on to Derek Carr. I mean, monster week last week. Unbelievable. Now he goes up against Denver, the no-fly zone. I just don't see it. I mean, I do kind of believe in the up-down. I've mentioned that before. I just don't see it this week. I think he's going to get shut down. I don't think he has a very good week at all.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, boomer bust guy. Going against the Broncos, my opinion is you set anybody against the Broncos this year. They are that special. It's been a long time since we had a defense that special. Even the Legion of Boom wasn't doing what Denver's doing to quarterbacks and receivers this year. I think you sit everybody against the Broncos the rest of the way. I even think you maybe even sit Tom Brady. I wish we had that matchup on the schedule. I looked ahead. I don't see it. But I would love to see that. Tom Brady going against this Broncos defense. But yeah, this week, Carr, I think he's a must sit. I think he's been schizophrenic anyway. You get booms and busts with Carr, but certainly against the Broncos, absolutely a sit. CB, who you sitting this week?
I thought when Jamal Charles went down, Spencer Ware was going to be the guy. And then Andy Reid screws me over again. So I'm going to sit Spencer Ware this week. Why? Because last week, Charkandrick West comes in again out of nowhere and goes off. Gets more touches, more yards, looks now like the starter there. And for all year, all we were hoping for when we drafted Ware and Jamal Charles is that one of them went away. You got that, and then Andy Reid comes back in and then puts Charkandrick West in. I'm pretty much done with all Kansas City running backs at this point, but I'm definitely sitting Ware this week.
CB, that's the Canadian part of you coming out because that's as close to a rant as he gets. Like, I almost saw that left nostril flare a little bit.
It was
I
close.
can tell you're angry.
The Tim timid me out.
You're very upset about that, I can tell. Yeah, with Spencer Ware and concussion protocol, West looked good last week, and I think he makes his case for the rest of the season. Running back by committee at best. We all hate that. But let's see what West does this week. If he performs well, it's going to be hard for Ware to come back. Always a mess there.
It is.
Always a mess. And it goes down to the coach, but it's always a mess there, I agree. Let's move on. Holly, what's next? We're always missing Holly.
She's in the
Sorry.
pisser again.
She was
I'm not
busy.
good this week. Waiver targets.
No, come on. We got the husk before.
Waiver targets.
There you go.
Just when I thought you couldn't do anything dumber, you go and do something like that and totally redeem yourself.
Yes. Holly for the win. Our comeback player of the week.
Bingo.
And yeah, of the week, I would think. Well, I don't know about next week. We'll see about this. For this week, comeback player of the week. Waiver targets. I'm going to kick it to you, Professor. Who are you looking at?
I got two guys I kind of want to talk about. Corey Coleman. A lot of people have forgot about him. He played 2 games in the NFL, second game over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then he goes down with a hand injury. As he's been gone, Terrell Pryor, he's been fantastic. I mean, he's getting up there into the top 10, top 5 type receivers this year. But I think Corey Coleman comes back. He's definitely talented. I think he comes in and makes a huge impact. The other guy I wanted to mention is Derrick Henry. A lot of people, kind of picked him up as a handcuff earlier in the year for DeMarco Murray, expecting him to take over the job. And DeMarco Murray's been performing fantastic so far. But you've seen so many injuries. If you have a roster spot, I think you pick him up, put him on there, because if DeMarco goes down, you have a legitimate number 1 running back going down the stretch.
I like both these guys. Corey Coleman, first wide receiver taken in an NFL draft this year. Everybody had high expectations for him. As you said, Professor, 173 yards first 2 weeks, 109 yards and 2 TDs in week 2. Then the guy goes down. He returns this week, and you mentioned Terrell Pryor. Terrell Pryor is dealing with that hamstring injury. I think Corey Coleman gets a lot of looks this week against Dallas. Let's see what he can do, but I like that as a waiver wire pickup. And then you mentioned Derrick Henry this week against the Chargers. We've been high on Derrick Henry all season. We're not sure why he didn't get any playing time. But last week, 16 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. I think that he has a big week this week against the Chargers. And then DeMarco Murray's in trouble. And if you own DeMarco Murray, now you're in trouble, because at bare minimum, there's a timeshare coming. And at worst, DeMarco Murray loses his job, and it's the Derrick Henry show. So a little bit of concern there. If you have Derrick Henry, it's a good time to be optimistic. If you have DeMarco Murray, a little time to worry a little bit. Artiste.
I'm going to say Tavon Austin. He may not be available everywhere, but he's going to be available in a lot of leagues. He's the last 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he's been targeted 10 and 15 times. Now, granted, there was a little lull in the middle where he only got targeted 5 or 6 times, but they're targeting like crazy, and they're going up against the 30th ranked pass defense in the league in Carolina. And they're giving up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. He gets a ton of targets lately. I think you have to love this guy. I mean, if you're hurting for a wide receiver, you need a wide receiver number 2, play this guy. Give him a chance.
Big Red.
Yeah, I'm actually going to reach out to the man on the cans, J.J. Nelson, his number 1 target in our league that we played this week. He's what Michael Floyd and both Browns should have been this year. Arians' offense needs a deep threat. You have David Johnson, who's going to bring guys into the box. I think what Carson Palmer was missing was the guy to tear the top off the defense, and J.J. Nelson has been that guy. 2 touchdowns last week. I think this is a guy that you can scoop, plug and play. He's probably going to be your 3rd wide receiver. He catches a touchdown every week. You're fantastic with it. I love him. The guy that I don't think you waste a waiver wire pickup, but you scoop him as a free agency, those couple days after, he's on by this week, is Jay Cutler. I know that sounds crazy, but he's got Tampa Bay, the Giants, Tennessee, San Francisco, Detroit, and Green Bay. These rank, every single one of these teams rank in the bottom 3rd of pass defenses. Again, it's a guy who's absolutely up against the wall, playing for his career. These guys called me crazy when I told you to play Phillip Rivers until Tom Brady came back. And I'm telling you, play Cutler. He's a guy that can absolutely blow up, go wild, and win you a title this year.
Yeah, the matchups look good for Cutler. I was looking at Cutler going ahead as well. This offense was looking not bad when they had Hoyer in there. They have Jordan Howard. They have Brandon Martin. They have weapons there, and his schedule looks very soft. I don't think it's that crazy. I did see Professor was about to yell, wrong, because he wanted to do Trump. I did Trump last week. He wanted to do Trump this week. I don't think I've ever seen you shake your head more vigorously.
He's too close to the left cross to yell at me, but he's pretty close.
You said Jay Cutler.
Jay freaking Cutler.
I don't even know what you said after that.
And guys, the great thing about this show is it's all on tape, and we'll go back several weeks from now, and we'll see if Big Red, and I'm agreeing with you, Big Red. I think his schedule looks very soft going forward. The guy does know how to play. He's always been, in years past, he's been a guy you wanted in fantasy. The targets are there. I think his career at this point, it's make or break. I think the guy's as hungry as he's ever been. Maybe he's never been hungry until this year. I like his finish. They have weapons there with Howard and Marshall and a new. There's targets
Marshall's
there.
a couple years ago, but he does have a guy named Alshon Jeffries.
I'm sorry, Alshon. Alshon.
Now,
Kick it to you, CB.
last week I told you Cutler, so after his 252, I'm going to give the professor a plain Timbit for shaking his head. He doesn't even get any frosting, plain one. Shake your head at that.
Well, hold on now. Can we just be clarified? He
can throw
may
it
have
back
been
at his
wrong
head.
about Cutler, but the man did just spike him some FanDuel. That's all I'm saying.
Now, this week, a guy named Brandon LaFell. We've talked about him a little bit. Still out there in a lot of leagues. Scored 4 last 5 weeks. Cincinnati, they have A.J. Green. No one's going to roll the safety to LaFell's side. He's getting plenty of targets as a flex wide receiver 3 guy. Plus, he's scoring almost every other week. That's all you can hope for out of a waiver target. I also like Jameis Winston moving forward as a quarterback. Gets San Diego, New Orleans twice. That offense is going to put up points, plus they play terrible defenses going down the stretch.
Yeah, what Big Red was saying, we should take a moment. The professor last week beat 27,000 other players in FanDuel and won 12 grand, first place. Can we take a minute to say cheers
to
to
Thank you, guys.
one of our experts?
bro.
He truly is the smartest man on the panel.
You get the best right here, guys.
I was doing the exchange
Thank you,
rate
guys.
for him, so when he came to Canada, he knew he had 16 grand for Blake Bortles instead of 12.
I like it. Make him feel better.
was nice to see.
We apologize to the professor because now the wife is going to know he won 12 grand.
She doesn't watch the show, so you're good.
That she doesn't. That's true.
All right, Holly, what's next? Holly will be here soon. It's the anticipation. It's like Heinz ketchup.
Right. Yep. Well put. Well put.
Picks against the spread.
We are a week away from Halloween. Otherwise, we could have done the Rocky Horror. And I could have held it till it came out and done that. Patient, but we're a week past Halloween, so yeah, there it is.
I'm not on my game today. I'm trying to build a beer can pyramid.
See
Appreciate.
what happens in the studio. It's all about serious business.
Business.
Picks against the spread. Not that we advocate gambling. Professor, you're up.
I mentioned Tannehill earlier. I like Miami. They're at home, -3 against the Jets. They do have Jay Ajayi. I mean, it's going to be tough goings for him, but I think they pass the ball well. I think he does just enough, and 3 points is manageable at home.
Big Red, your pick.
Yeah, I told you I love Dak Prescott. Told you I love Terrence Williams. I love Dallas -7 versus Cleveland. I think this is one of those games. Cleveland tries their best to turn them into one-dimensional. This is a team that is absolutely can throw the football, can run the ball. Dallas -7. I see them winning by probably 13 or 14.
Yeah, Cleveland with all kinds of problems. Dallas hitting their stride coming up the bye. I like it. My lock of the week, Oakland -1 versus Denver. I think Carr gets exposed. The 500 yards is pushing that spread in a place that I want it to be. Carr struggles. Oakland struggles. They're at Denver. Denver rolls in this game. 1 point. Come on, guys. This is the one. Denver wins this thing by 17, in my opinion. Easy lock of the week for me. Artiste, your lock of the week.
I had to go with Pittsburgh. Playing at Baltimore. Joe Flacco, I feel like, is overrated. To me, he's a bit of a broke dick swamp donkey. I don't see a lot. You know, I mean,
Tell us how you really feel.
Well, I mean, he reminds me.
I'm not
of,
even sure what that is.
I'm not sure either.
It's
but
the things he watches on the Blurry channel.
It could go back
Seriously,
to that.
subscribe. Let's get him the real stuff.
Right. I need some money, okay? Because I can't. I guess it's all blurry. But anyway, so I mean, he reminds me.
I'm
he's
really
like
not sure
Dilfer.
what that
He's
even
like,
is.
well, he's like Dilfer, like the worst quarterback. of all
Well,
time.
if you say it's Dilfer, now I know.
Like, you know, Dilfer, dildo, whatever. Anyway, so yeah, like me, some Pittsburgh. I think Baltimore is one of. I mean, they started off the year 3-0. You find out who they truly are over the last 3 or 4 games. Pittsburgh's coming off a bye. They need a win. They will take care of business. They're giving 1 point at Baltimore.
I thought you were going to do some Denny Green there.
Wait.
They are who we
we
thought
thought
they
they
were.
are.
I thought there was some Denny Green coming
You want
out
to
of
crown him? Crown him.
I mean, he is the artiste. He paints in Phineas Anger. I was expecting some, but yeah, no Denny Green. CB, lock of the week.
I like Jacksonville. As bad as we've talked about that team and how horrible they've looked, I still think getting a 7 against Kansas City is worth taking a shot at. You've got Alex Smith who's out, so you have Nick Foles who couldn't start in the CFL because he can't throw the ball. You've got Spencer Ware who's probably out. You're looking at backups all over the place for Kansas City. Low-scoring game where I can get a touchdown, I'll take Jacksonville.
I saw that offense wake up last week under Nick Foles, actually. I mean, we were laughing a couple years ago. One of our buddies took Foles in the first. We've taken that kind of as a moniker, Foles in the first. And last week, when Nick Foles came in, that offense woke up. I don't know that I like the 7, but we'll see next week. Holly, what's last?
Takeaways.
As much as you guys want to see her run and bounce, like that's a lot of wait time.
Are you breathing?
Wait.
No.
Everybody has to urinate.
She was down the street, I think.
Right?
Our audio guy, our tech guy, just
got
called her
caught
on the
by
phone and said, "Holly, you're up." And she drove the car down the street, and now she's here. Is it busy down the street? We're gonna head to Mike's Tavern after. Is it busy at Mike's?
Right.
Traffic isn't bad.
So Holly just came from Mike's. She ran down the street. Takeaways, CB, you're up.
A couple things. First, big men like donut holes. Quarterback should remind that. Take your whole line out. Get them some donuts. They'll be a fan of yours. Next.
Makes sense. I'll drink to that.
Next, I'm not a big fan of Cam Newton right now. I think, whatever reason, I think Carolina would be happy to get rid of him. And if he's on your fantasy team, maybe you can too. We didn't really touch on it this week, but I just don't like a lot what's going on in Carolina. I'll ship him and find somebody else.
Jonathan Stewart, 2 TDs in the last 2 games within 2 yards each game. So you have 4 touchdowns in 2 weeks with inside the 2. That used to be Cam Newton's zone. Yeah. Carolina wouldn't do anything else but give Cam the football. We talked about it 3 weeks ago, guys. After the concussion, do they still run Cam, or does Cam still? First of all, do they call his play, or for him to run in? Secondly, does he just get loose and run it in? I think the answer is clear. Jonathan Stewart, 4 touchdowns inside the 2 the last 2 weeks. Cam Newton does have 1, but it was inside the 10. I like Jonathan Stewart going forward. I think Cam Newton takes a huge step backwards. I think after the concussion, they're not going to run the guy. They're not calling for him. Artis, your takeaway.
Permission for a mini rant?
Mini rant granted.
All right. Grant the rant. All right, so all I'm saying is this.
Trademark. Grant the rant. Trademark.
Right, yeah. You can't take that shit from us. So I might have Le'Veon Bell in my league, and he's done a pretty good job since he's been back. Obviously, I had to bide my time and wait.
He likes Timbits because he smokes a lot.
Well, sure he does, right. And Fritos.
It's legal in Canada.
Yeah,
in Canada, but he plays in Pittsburgh. That's the problem. If he played in the CFL, he'd be fine.
2 years from now, he'll be in the CFL. It's all fine. Go ahead.
Timbits and Fritos. But anyway, thank you, lovely Holly. Anywho.
As I said, we don't condone gambling. We also don't condone drug use.
Yeah, or the
Please continue on what we should eat after we might be.
Right. So all I'm saying is this. Love me some Le'Veon Bell. For me, he's been pretty good. One of the leagues I play in is a PPR. We're talking mainly about standard leagues here. But if you're in a PPR, he's been okay for you. But if you're not, which was, like I said, what we talk about, then he's not been so good. And it's amazing to me because how do they not get this guy the ball in the effing red zone one time? Can they get the ball? That's all I'm saying. Get him the ball in the mother effing red zone like one time. He's been back for 4 weeks. He hasn't scored 1 touchdown.
I've seen this guy.
Are you going to tell me because Le'Veon Bell sucks? I don't think so. This is one of the top 2 or 3 running backs, arguably number 1 in the league, and he's got 0 touchdowns. Ring the damn bell. Put the son of a bitch in there by the goal line one time.
I was going to say, that was the softest rant. I've known this guy for 15 years. It was the softest right up till the end. Then I liked it. It was good. My takeaway, guys, look at the bottom of the league. Big Red and I have been talking. The league knows this is the time to make trades. I want you to look at the bottom of the league. Those are the teams that are desperate and they need to make a trade. They're willing to give you value, or they don't care. There are guys who are just have checked out, and they'll trade you somebody solid. Especially in keepers, stay away from their keeper. Get their other guys. That's who you want to target. This is the time in the season, whether your record's bad or good, go get trades, target the lower teams. The top guys aren't going to give you any value. Big Red, your takeaway.
Yeah, I said it last week. I'm going to reiterate it. There are 5 weeks left. If you are 2 or 3 games out of the playoffs, you have to make the moves. Doc's already talked about it. You're looking at the bottom feeders. If you're a top dog, fantastic. Look at the schedule. Try and snipe. Give 3 bench guys that will start on their team for 1 stud. That's absolutely great. But if you're in the dog fight for that last playoff spot, you've got to make trades that you don't think are very good. Trading Tom Brady right now, we've all talked about him being an MVP. That's a terrible trade. However, if you can get yourself 3 starters for 1, and that drags your team into the playoffs, you have a chance. When you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. If you are 2 or 3 games out, now's the time to trade your studs to get yourself 2 or 3 starters. And we've talked about it. This time last year, you had Blake Bortles, you had Cam Newton, David Johnson. These were guys that were no ones that would have pulled your team into absolutely fantasy stardom. You have to make those moves this year if you're that far out of the playoffs. Now's not the time to be conservative. Trade your studs for absolute. You have to take some flyers and try and make a move.
Yeah, Big Red, I agree with that completely. I've had Brady many years where I had the best team in the league, far and away the most points, and then the snowstorm hit, or they sat Brady, or a lot of things happen. So yeah, if you're struggling, especially if you have 3 wins, 2 wins, it's time. And if you have one guy that you're holding on to, don't hold on to any of them. You have to get value back. But teams that do have winning records, have a little bit of padding, they're probably willing to give you 2 or 3 guys that you need. And once the playoffs start, we've all been there, anything can happen. So yeah, I would even trade Tom Brady if I was in a struggling position. If I could get 2 or 3 quality guys that I'm going to throw in my lineup, Brady, he gone. That needs to be a new catchphrase. I like that. He gone. We'll work on it. We'll make it better. Professor, finish this up.
I agree with the trade. I mean, yeah, you've got to get into the playoffs, but you don't necessarily need to make the big blockbuster trade, but make a strategic trade. One guy I'm kind of targeting, but I'm not sure yet, is Matt Forte. Again, he's had 55 carries in the last 2 weeks. He did that in the first 2 weeks, and then he started getting 15, 12. He kept getting no carries. If he can continue, he can produce very good late. He doesn't have that big name, so you might be able to scoop him up. Another guy is if you have Todd Gurley, trade him for his name. He is a talented back. Maybe you can get somebody, maybe a Will Fuller, I'm just throwing a name out, who will probably produce more than him. And whatever you do, just please bench Russell Wilson. Just please bench him.
Well, and Gurley's been bad most of the season. I don't know that you get much for Gurley at this point. We've talked about many times, if you can't get anything for a guy, you might as well just hold on to him. Gurley's been terrible. Matt Forte, it's interesting you bring up Matt Forte. Matt Forte is averaging 3.5 yards per carry. Below Powell, 7.1 yards per carry. Powell has 30 carries on the season. Forte has 157 carries. It's interesting to me that they continued to give Forte the rock, and last week they did. It looks like it's a Forte show going forward, but boy, Powell looks like the better back. Big Red, let's go to you real quick.
Keep it very short. This time last year, Russ Wilson, through the first 8 weeks, was averaging 230 yards and a touchdown a week. From the bye week on, he averaged 275 yards and had 24 touchdowns through 6 weeks. So this is what we're talking about. Russell Wilson is a guy, you may have to make the decision to go, this guy can win me a title, or he can lose you a title. But you're 2-3 games out, you've got to make that decision. Just because a guy has been terrible doesn't mean it's not worth trying to buy him now, because you've got an absolute lottery ticket later on. I think that's important to know.
Yeah, if you're going to pick up Russell Wilson, you should go straight to the drugstore and buy a lotto ticket, because that's about the odds that Russell Wilson's going to do anything the rest of this year. Yeah, I feel that way. Mega Million, actually, spend the $2 and get the Powerball, just in reference to Big Red. We'll go big.
Is that a red ball?
But
It is a red ball.
It is a red ball.
Or play FanDuel. Just throwing it out there.
Bo, can I make a quick waiver wire suggestion?
We're kicking it back to the
Sorry, I
Artis.
don't mean to interrupt. Well,
We're going to end this show at some point, but we're going to kick
we
back
are,
to
but
Artis.
Real quick, I just want to say I got 6 guys that I forgot about when we did the waiver wire thing. The studs, the gladiators, the horses, the machines, the monsters, and the beasts. If you pick them son of bitches up, you'll win your damn league.
Please subscribe. The blurry stuff has got to go.
One of them, did you call one the hammer? I don't know how to say it.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
I thought he might have used that word. I don't know.
I can't remember.
Guys, thanks for tuning in this week. Don't forget to subscribe. We need the subscriptions just so we can keep doing this. We're going to go for everyone, including Drew Decker, our man behind the scenes. I want to say thank you to Drew. Doing a great job. When sound is bad, it's us. It's not Drew, but we're working on it. But for the professor, Big Red, the beautiful Miss Holly, for the doc, for the Artis, Canadian Bacon. Guys, keep at it, man. You're not out unless you're out, and that's through this week. Nobody's out. So keep winning, win a championship. We'll see you next week.
Good luck.